People always ask me the same question when they look up at the night sky. They say, what happens if we just keep going? Imagine you get into a spaceship, step on the gas, and you just go. You fly past the moon, you fly past Jupiter, you leave the Milky Way behind. You just keep flying in a straight line for billions of years. What happens at the very end? Do you eventually hit a wall? A giant cosmic brick wall with a sign that says, "End of the universe. Please turn around." Or do you just fall out of reality and slip into a dark, endless void of absolutely nothing? It is a beautiful question. But the problem with that question is that it assumes the universe works like a room or a box with sides. Nature, however, does not care about our everyday common sense. Nature is far more imaginative than we are. When you actually look at the mechanics of space, the truth is far stranger than hitting a physical barrier. In fact, if you truly understand what the edge of the universe actually is, it will completely shatter your perception of exactly where you are sitting right now. If you are curious enough to figure out how this grand, beautiful machinery really works, hit that subscribe button and stick with me. We are going to take this mystery apart, piece by exact piece, using nothing but logic and the laws of physics. So let us imagine we really do build that ship. Let us fire up the engines, leave the Earth behind, and find out exactly what happens when you run out of space. We are in the ship. We have left the Earth, we have passed the outer planets, and we are accelerating. Let us say we are moving incredibly fast, approaching the absolute speed limit of reality itself, which is light speed, or roughly 300,000 kilometers per second. We look out the window. We see galaxies passing by like glowing streetlights on a quiet, dark highway. We are determined to find the edge. But to understand what we are going to find, we first have to understand what we are actually driving through. When you ask a normal person on the street what space is, they will usually tell you it is just emptiness. They think of space as a giant empty warehouse. You put the stars and the planets and the dust inside the warehouse. And if you took all the stars and planets out, you would still be left with the empty warehouse. That is how Isaac Newton thought about the universe. He imagined space as an absolute, rigid stage where the events of nature take place. But nature does not agree with Isaac Newton. Space is not an empty box. It is not a container. Space is a physical, dynamic thing. It can bend, it can ripple, and most importantly, it can stretch. I want you to imagine you are baking a loaf of raisin bread. You make the dough, you mix in a bunch of raisins, and you set it in the oven. The heat hits the dough. The yeast does its work, and the dough begins to rise. It expands. Now, imagine you are a tiny little bug sitting on one of those raisins. As the bread bakes, you look around, and what do you see? You see every other raisin moving away from you. The raisins close to you move away slowly, but the raisins further away move away much faster. Sun. If you just looked at the raisins, you might think, wow, I must be at the very center of this bread, because everything is flying away from me. But the bug sitting on the next raisin over thinks the exact same thing. He sees you moving away from him. Kan. The raisins are not actually swimming through the dough. The dough itself is getting bigger, dragging the raisins along with it. In our universe, the galaxies are the raisins, and the empty space between them is the dough. Space itself is expanding. It is swelling up every single second of every single day. But here is where human common sense becomes a trap. When I tell you the universe is expanding, your brain immediately asks a very logical question. You ask, well, if it is expanding, what is it expanding into? Does it expand into a bigger, emptier room? What is outside the dough? Listen carefully, because this is where you have to let go of your everyday experience. Our brains evolved to understand things on Earth. We understand caves and boxes and rooms. Everything we interact with has an inside and an outside. But the universe does not have an outside. There is no giant empty void waiting for the universe to pour into it. Space creates its own room as it expands. Space is all there is. If there is no space, there is no distance. There is no up, no down, no left, and no right. You cannot ask what is outside the universe, because the concept of outside requires space to exist, and space only exists inside the universe. So here we are in our spaceship, flying through the dough. We are determined to reach the outer crust of this cosmic loaf of bread. We keep our foot on the gas, blazing past the galaxies. But because the dough itself is stretching out from under us, we begin to notice a very severe problem. Something strange starts happening to the light of the stars ahead of us. Something that is going to make reaching the edge physically impossible, no matter how fast we go. We are still in our ship, pushing the engines to their absolute limit. We want to find the edge, but as we stare out the front window at the distant galaxies, we notice something peculiar happening to the light coming from them. To understand this, I want you to think about a sound you have heard 100 times. Have you ever stood by the side of a highway when an ambulance drives past with its siren blaring? When the ambulance is driving toward you, the pitch of the siren is high. But the exact moment it passes you and starts driving away, the pitch drops. The sound becomes deeper. We call this the Doppler effect. Sound travels in waves. When the ambulance moves toward you, it squishes the sound waves together, making the pitch higher. When it moves away, it stretches the sound waves out, making the pitch lower. Light behaves in the exact same way. Light is a wave, but instead of hearing the pitch of a light wave, your eyes see it as color. If a galaxy is moving toward you, its light waves get squished together and the light shifts toward the blue end of the rainbow. But if a galaxy is moving away from you, those light waves get stretched out. They become longer, lazier waves. And in the spectrum of light, Longer waves look red. As we look out the window of our spaceship, every single distant galaxy we see is shifting red. The further away they are, the redder they get. This is the ultimate proof that the universe is expanding. Space between us and them is stretching out, and it is literally stretching the light wave along with it. But here is where the mystery deepens, where our plan to reach the edge hits a mathematical brick wall. Remember the raisin bread. The dough is space, and it is expanding. If you look at a galaxy that is close to us, the space between us is expanding relatively slowly. But if you look at a galaxy that is 10 billion light years away, there is an unimaginable amount of space between us. Every single inch of that space is expanding at the exact same time. The expansion is cumulative. More space means more stretching. Because of this cumulative stretching, galaxies that are incredibly far away are being pushed away from us at terrifying speeds. This leads to a massive problem. At a certain distance, there is so much space between us and the outer galaxies that the cumulative expansion actually outpaces the speed of light. Now, wait a minute, you might say. I thought Albert Einstein proved that absolutely nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. That is an ironclad law of physics, is it not? Yes, it is. But nature is very clever. Einstein said that no object can travel through space faster than the speed of light. He set a speed limit for the cars on the highway, but he never set a speed limit for the highway itself. Space is not an object. Space is the fabric of the universe. The galaxies are not moving through space faster than light. They are sitting perfectly still in their local area. The space between them is swelling up so incredibly fast that the distance between them grows faster than light can cross it. Imagine you are running on a treadmill. You are running as fast as you humanly can. Let us call your top speed the speed of light. Someone standing next to you keeps turning up the speed of the treadmill belt. Eventually, the belt is moving backward, much faster than you can run forward. What happens? You start losing ground. No matter how hard you run, you will never reach the front of the machine. This is exactly what is happening to our spaceship. Even if we travel at the absolute speed of light, space ahead of us is being created faster than we can fly through it. We are running on a cosmic treadmill. This creates a definitive boundary. It is not a physical wall made of rocks or fire. It is an optical illusion created by the limits of speed and time. We call it the observable universe. It is a sphere of visibility, and we are stuck exactly in the center of it. But this realization forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. If this boundary is just a limit of what we can see and reach, what is sitting just outside of it in the dark? We are stuck inside this sphere of visibility, our observable universe. It is a bubble, and we are trapped perfectly in the middle of it. So, what is sitting out there in the dark, just outside the bubble? I want you to imagine you are standing in a giant flat field in the pitch black of midnight. You have a lantern. The lantern is bright, but it can only throw its light exactly 1 mile in every direction. You are standing in the absolute center of a sphere of visibility. When you look around, you see the grass, maybe some distant trees, perhaps a fence. But beyond that 1 mile mark, there is only blackness. Does the field end just because your light cannot reach it? Of course not. If you magically teleported 1 mile to your left, standing exactly on the edge of your old bubble, what would happen? Your lantern would light up a brand new patch of the field. You would find yourself in the exact center of a brand new bubble, looking at new trees and new grass. The universe works exactly the same way. The boundary of our observable universe is not a physical drop-off. It is just the limit of our lantern. If we could magically teleport 50 billion light years in any direction, far beyond the horizon of what we can currently see, we would not find a brick wall. We would not find empty nothingness. We would simply find ourselves in the center of a new observable universe, surrounded by billions of different galaxies, looking out into a different darkness. But nature is never that simple. Because here is where we hit the grand paradox. The true mystery of the edge is not about space at all. It is about time. To understand this, we have to talk about how you actually see the world. When you look at something, you are not touching it with your gaze. You are acting like a catcher in a baseball game, catching tiny waves of light that have been thrown at you. Light is incredibly fast. It moves at 300,000 kilometers every single second, but it is not infinitely fast. It still takes time to cross a distance. When you look at the sun in the sky, you are not seeing the sun as it is right now. You are catching light that left the sun 8 minutes ago. If the sun were to suddenly disappear this exact second, we would not know about it. We would still see it shining brightly in the sky for 8 more minutes. Your eyes are literally a time machine. You are constantly looking into the past. Now, let us scale that up. When you look at the nearest star to our solar system, you are seeing it as it was 4 years ago. When you look at the Andromeda galaxy, you are seeing it as it was over 2 million years ago. So, if we take our telescopes and look as far as we possibly can, all the way to the edge of our observable bubble, what are we seeing? We are catching light that has been traveling through space for nearly 14 billion years. We are not just looking across space. We are looking back to the beginning of time. When we look at the absolute edge of the universe, we do not seize a black, empty void. We see a wall of fire. We see the afterglow of the Big Bang itself. In its earliest moments, the universe was not a cold expanse of stars. It was a compressed, superheated soup of particles. It was a dense plasma, so thick that light could not even move through it. When we look in any direction, deep enough into space, we hit that wall of plasma. It is everywhere. It surrounds us completely. We call it the cosmic microwave background. So, the paradox of the edge is this. We cannot reach the edge, not just because space is expanding too fast, but because the edge is not a place you can travel to. The edge is a time. The edge is the past. You cannot fly a spaceship into yesterday. But this forces us into a very uncomfortable corner. If the edge is just an illusion created by light and time, space just keeps going past our horizon. What is the actual physical shape of the whole thing? Is it infinite? Because if the universe truly goes on forever, the mathematical consequences are going to completely break your brain. We established that the edge of our observable bubble is not a place, but a time. We are surrounded by the fiery wall of the past. But what if we ignore the limits of light? What if we just talk about the physical space itself? If you keep going past our horizon, space never stops. What actually happens? Let us assume for a moment that space is truly infinite. It goes on forever in every single direction. The human mind cannot truly picture infinity. When we try to think about it, we usually just imagine a really big empty room or a really long list of numbers. We think it just means a whole lot of stuff. But infinity is not just a big number. It is a physical concept that completely destroys our basic understanding of reality. To understand why, I want you to think about a standard deck of playing cards. You have 52 cards. If you shuffle that deck, the order of the cards will be unique. In fact, there are so many possible combinations that every time you shuffle a deck thoroughly, you are almost certainly holding a sequence of cards that has never existed before in the history of the world. But what if I give you an infinite amount of time? What if you sit at a table and shuffle that deck over and over, forever? Eventually, because there are only 52 cards, you will run out of new combinations. It is a mathematical certainty. You will be forced to shuffle the exact same arrangement again. And not just once, but an infinite number of times. The math demands a repeat. Now, I want you to look at the universe. Everything you see, everything you are, the chair you are sitting in, the screen you are looking at, the dust floating in the air, they are all made of a finite set of building blocks. Protons, neutrons, and electrons. Just like a deck of cards, there is a limited number of ways you can arrange the atoms inside a specific volume of space. Quantum mechanics dictates that there is a strict mathematical limit to how much physical information you can stuff into a specific region before it collapses into a black hole. Our observable universe, that massive bubble of light we talked about, has a specific size, and it contains a specific number of particles. It is a mind-bogglingly large number, but it is not infinite. It is a finite number of particles, which means they can only be arranged in a finite number of ways. If the universe outside our bubble goes on infinitely, then we have an infinite amount of space filled with a finite number of possible arrangements. Do you see where this brutal logic is forcing us to go, if you travel far enough into the endless dark, you will eventually run out of new ways to arrange the atoms. The universe has to start repeating itself. Somewhere out there, an unimaginable distance away, there is an exact copy of this galaxy. There is an exact copy of this solar system and an exact copy of the Earth. There is another you. That other you is sitting in the exact same position, breathing the exact same air, listening to an exact copy of me explain this exact same concept to them. And because space is infinite, there is not just one copy. There are infinite copies of you. There is a version of you where you made every different choice in your life. There is a version where you are a famous scientist. There is a version where you looked away from this screen 5 seconds ago. Every single physical possibility allowed by quantum mechanics is playing out right now, an infinite number of times, simply because the cosmic deck of cards has to keep being dealt. This is not science fiction. This is not science fiction. This is not a parallel dimension or a mystical multiverse. This is exactly what must happen in a single infinite space governed by the laws of physics. But there is a catch. This mind-breaking reality only exists if space is perfectly flat and goes on forever like an endless sheet of paper. What if it does not? What if space has a shape? We left off with a terrifying thought. If the universe goes on forever like a flat, endless sheet of paper, the rules of probability demand that an infinite number of exact copies are sitting out there in the dark. But human intuition is terribly flawed. We have made this exact same mistake before. I want you to think about what happens when you walk outside and look at the horizon. The ground looks perfectly flat. For thousands of years, intelligent people assumed the Earth was a flat disk. If you told a man from the ancient world to walk as far as he could, he would be terrified of finding the edge. He would assume that if he just kept walking, he would eventually step off a cliff and fall into the abyss. We laugh at that now. We know that if you start walking in a perfectly straight line, you will never find an edge. You will not hit a wall, and you will not fall into nothingness. You will simply walk all the way around the globe and end up exactly where you started. The surface of the Earth has a finite size, but it has no boundary. It has no edge. Now I want you to take that exact same logic and apply it to the entire cosmos. What if the 3 dimensions of space we live in are wrapped and curved in exactly the same way? If you take a flat piece of paper and draw a triangle, the 3 inside angles will always add up to exactly 180 degrees. That is a fundamental rule of flat geometry. But if you take a giant marker and draw a massive triangle on the surface of the Earth, starting at the North Pole, drawing a line down to the equator, going across the equator, and then drawing back up to the pole, those angles will add up to more than 180 degrees. The rules of geometry change because the surface itself is curved. Space operates under the exact same principles. Albert Einstein proved that mass and energy warp the physical fabric of space. If there is enough matter in the universe, the collective gravity of all those galaxies will bend the entire fabric of reality back in on itself. We call this a closed universe. We live in a closed universe. The mind-breaking infinite copies of you do not exist. There is a finite amount of space and a finite amount of matter, but there is still no edge. If you get into our spaceship and fly in a perfectly straight line, you will not fly forever into infinity. You will not hit a brick wall. You will fly past strange galaxies, through vast and empty voids, until one day, billions of years later, you see a very familiar yellow star. You will see the Earth. You will have flown all the way around the universe and come up right behind yourself. A universe can be finite, meaning it has a specific size, but still possess absolutely no edge. But I promised you the hard truth. The hard truth is that you and I can never make that journey. Not because of a lack of engineering, but because the universe itself is actively working against us. Remember the dough in our raisin bread. It is stretching. Space is expanding. But in the late 1990s, astronomers made a discovery that shook physics to its absolute core. They realized the expansion is not slowing down. It is accelerating. An invisible, relentless pressure is pushing the fabric of space apart faster and faster every single day. We call it dark energy. We have absolutely no idea what it actually is. All we know is that it is winning. Because of dark energy, space between us and the distant galaxies is multiplying so rapidly that the entire shape of the universe no longer matters for our survival. Whether the universe is a flat, infinite sheet or a curved sphere, the result is the same. The galaxies outside our local neighborhood are being pushed away from us so fast that their light will eventually never be able to reach our eyes. This brings us to the ultimate climax of our journey. The true nature of the edge is not a physical wall. It is something much colder, much more permanent. We are facing a deeply unsettling reality. Dark energy is tearing the fabric of space apart. It is doing it faster and faster every single day. Because of this acceleration, the fundamental nature of the edge changes completely. The edge of the universe is not a wall waiting for us at the end of a long journey. The edge is an absolute limit of communication closing in on us. I want you to think about a black hole. Most people know that a black hole has something called an event horizon. It is a boundary of no return. If you cross that line, you must move faster than the speed of light to escape the gravity, which is impossible. So you vanish from the observable universe. Because space is expanding faster than light, our entire universe has an event horizon too. But instead of falling into it, the distant galaxies are being pushed across it. Right now, when I look through a telescope, I can see billions of galaxies. But every single second, space expands, and the galaxies near the very edge of our vision are pushed over that cosmic horizon. The moment they cross that line, the space between us and them is expanding so incredibly fast that the light they emit will never, ever be able to reach us again. Even if that light traveled for 1 trillion years, the treadmill of space is moving backward too quickly. Those galaxies are permanently erased from our reality. Imagine you are in a small lifeboat on a completely pitch black ocean. You look out, you see the lights of 1 billion other lifeboats scattered across the water. But the ocean itself is stretching. The boats furthest away from you slip over the horizon, and their lights vanish. Then the next row of boats vanishes, and then the next. The circle of light around you is shrinking. This is the ultimate climax of our cosmic story. Trillions of years from now, the expansion of space will push every single galaxy outside of our local neighborhood over the cosmic horizon. The night sky will be completely emptied out. Our Milky Way galaxy is bound by gravity to a few close neighbors, like the Andromeda galaxy. Gravity is strong enough locally to hold us together against the stretching of space. Eventually, our local group of galaxies will crash together and merge into one massive, lonely island of stars. But beyond that island, there will be nothing. Absolute freezing blackness. The cosmic microwave background, that wall of fire from the Big Bang, will be stretched so thin and so cold that it will be entirely undetectable. Now, I want you to imagine a civilization of intelligent beings waking up on a planet in that distant future. They build telescopes just like we did. They look out into the dark. But what do they see? Nothing. They see their own local island of stars, and beyond that, an endless empty void. They will have absolutely no evidence that the universe is expanding. They will have no evidence of the Big Bang. The universe is actively erasing its own tracks. Those future scientists will look at the sky and logically conclude that they are alone in an endless, static room. They will be entirely wrong, but their science will be flawless based on what they can observe. We are incredibly lucky. We just happen to live in a privileged slice of time, a golden era where the universe is still young enough to show us its secrets, but old enough for us to evolve and build the machines to see them. We get to know the truth before the lights go out. I am just a guy who loves pulling back the curtain to see how this grand machinery actually works, and I love sharing the blueprints with you. If I have helped you understand the universe a little better today, if I have managed to break your brain in the best possible way, I need your help to keep this going. I do not have a massive university grant. I just have you. So if you want to support this channel and keep these deep dives alive, hit that super thanks button right down below. It means the world to me. It keeps us exploring together.